Hi Maggie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Great, great. Nice to see you.
It's good
Uh,
to be here on the
especially,
podcast.
yeah. Can you please tell me where you are now?
I am actually in New Jersey at the moment. I'm in my hometown, where I grew up. I'm with my mom at the moment, who's watching my two kids, and I head back to Nepal for Surkhet in like 2 more weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really glad that you accepted my invitation, and I'm really thankful for your work, especially in my home district, Surkhet.
Yeah, you're a fellow Surkhetti, so I'm of course, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for, all of your work on peace studies and ecology. It's so, so important in Western Nepal, as you know. Very, very important conversations.
Yes, and I also want to extend the work I'm doing now here in Nepal too in the future. And I didn't talk about that part. Maybe we will talk later on. Maybe in the future, we have started a research institute, and we
Cool.
work we work in Nepal too. So you were named CNN Hero in 2015. You are a mom of hundreds of students, and I believe you are also Nepal lover. What do I call you, Maggie? What term do you like most?
Well, I guess the first question is, how old are you?
I am in my 40s.
So I'm your Bini, and
Oh,
you, yeah.
yes. Wow.
So I guess how do you like to be addressed? Are you
Uh,
are you Daju? Are you Dr. Ham?
yeah, for me, Dr. Haim, this, that, I don't like that much kind of designation. If you call me Daju, or as you know, in Nepal, we call not by name, we call Daju Baini, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
I'm 36. I came to Surkhet for the first time when I was 18, going on 19 years old. So I've done about half my life in Surkhet and the other half in New Jersey, here where I'm from.
yeah, you are uh, more than New Jerseyan. You are Surkheti for me, at least.
Yeah. So when did you go to the US? What year? What year?
In 2006.
Yeah, so I came to Nepal in 2006. We passed each other in the sky,
Yes.
maybe.
Wow, wow. You are my real Baini. Yes. Recently I had a chat with another American Didi. As soon as we started in that Nepali podcast, she said bye, and I felt like a different type of connection. So I will call you Baini if you don't mind.
I'll call you Daju.
Yeah. But since this program, the audience would be um, from all over the world. But I just want to clarify that Baini means sister and Daju means brother. So
Yeah, and for those of you who are not Nepali and not aware of like South Asian culture, it's kind of the way that people address each other, brother, sister, auntie, uncle. And it's kind of like a way to form connections of respect. And I actually really like it about South Asian culture and Nepali culture because you feel, yeah, you have a different feeling. And I mean, maybe we would all treat each other a little better if we thought of each other as our own family members, right? So
yes,
it's really sweet when you're, walking down the streets of Nepal. If you see an older person, to me, they would be Amma or Auntie or
yeah,
grandmother if they're really, really old, I guess.
yes.
But
You
then there's
know,
some people like who, if you call them Auntie and they want to be Didi, like they'll get insulted.
yeah, yeah. You're right. Maggie, when I came here in the United States first time, just I didn't remember names of many people because as you know, in Nepal,
We don't need to know names.
yes. And I was kind of embarrassed at the beginning. Oh wow, I didn't. Oh Jack. or Ryan or this and that. I totally
Yeah.
forgot the name.
Yeah, in Nepali culture, you would never need to know anyone's name because they're just brother, sister. If like, a little kid, you could call them daughter, niece, nephew, son, babu, nani.
Yeah, yeah,
So we can get away with not knowing names there.
yeah. How?
Sometimes I'll realize like I've known someone for 5 years and I don't know their name. Just like they're Didi or uncle. So yeah, less emphasis on names for sure in Nepali culture.
Yeah, yeah. So let me start with that. So how do you feel about it? About the calling by Didi, Baini, Daju, Bhai, like from different cultural perspective, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beautiful. I think it's really, really beautiful. It's one of the things that I loved that really captivated me in the region, in the country. And I don't know, I remember there was a moment where a little girl was breaking rocks on the river, and children break rocks to sell as gravel. And it's a means to make a living and get daily wage. And I remember this little girl, her name was Hema. She stopped me and said, Namaste, Didi. And she had this big, bright, beautiful smile. And I remember thinking, like, she's to me, I'm a big sister. And yet, her being born in Surkhet, Nepal, and me being born in a nice suburban little town in New Jersey, our lives are completely different. And I was given so, so much. And every opportunity in the world to be educated, to learn how to drive, to marry who and when I wanted um, to never be bound by child labor or domestic work. And yeah, it was like a really powerful moment for me having her call me big sister and kind of see her as myself, but with a very, very different set of circumstances, and kind of realizing for the first time as a young 18-year-old, like how it's all a lottery. And I could have easily been her and she could have easily been me. And that's when you start to look at our human family as our family, as one family, it makes you more empathetic. I think it makes you more generous. It makes you really question things, um, because so much of this is happenstance. It's just, I mean, depending on your spiritual beliefs, I guess. But to me, I felt like we're the exact same human being, except she got dealt those cards, I got dealt these cards, and it's not right. It felt fundamentally wrong and unfair. And it was kind of like the first big shake and the first big, like, rude awakening in my life of like, she doesn't even get to go to kindergarten. How can we end cycles of poverty and violence in this world if a little girl anywhere in the world doesn't get a chance to even go to kindergarten and learn to read and write? It's just, we need to change that. And until we can change that, I just kind of felt like we should be ashamed of ourselves because there's no reason for it. And we all need to do better collectively. And that was kind of the start of BlinkNow, actually. And that was the start of me making like a very drastic decision to move there and build a life there and try, even though I was not equipped at all, but like to try to make a difference. So Didi means a lot to me. The word Didi and the word, namaste, they mean a lot because my whole life changed in the blink of an eye with those two words and a big, bright, beautiful smile. And to this day, like the words namaste, Didi, Dai, they mean a lot to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a yoga and meditation practitioner. Uh,
Mm,
my first class, I would start with the meaning of namaste and also like a little bit about cultural thing, what yoga means, because in Western countries, yoga means like roughly speaking, okay, I don't want to generalize, just twisting and just being flexible, this and that. But is more than that. Maggie Doyne, you are the founder of BlinkNow Foundation. I love the name, by the way.
thank
In
you.
Kopila, Delhi. Please tell me about this organization? I know about it, but I want people to know about the great work you are doing. And why did you establish this school? What motivated you?
Sure. So I'm actually a co-founder. I founded Kopila Valley with my co-founder. His name's Tope Bahadur Mullah. He is from Calicut,
Yeah.
which is a northern district in the province where you and I have lived. And he was an orphan. He lost his dad when he was 1, and he lost his big sister when he was 8, and he lost his mom when he was 9. And by the time he was 11 or 12, he was kind of forced to go to India to work as a child migrant, which is a really, really common story for children, for young people, and for pretty much everyone in this Karnali region where you come from and where I'm privileged now to call home and live. And so my journey started on the India side of a major crisis that was happening in our region. And I just happened as a young person to be in northeastern India. And those of us who know this region know that the way that folks in Karnali survive, the migrant work seasons when there's no food, with severe lack of employment, with severe lack of opportunity, and in any time of like financial crisis, basically like our whole region's economy relies on migrant work. So you've got the most food deficit region, one of the most food deficit regions in the world. You've got unemployment, you've got natural disasters, you've got extreme multidimensional poverty, and then you add a civil war, which creates crisis on so many levels. I ended up being on the northeastern side of India and just becoming friends with like young people my age who came from that region. They were working, they were, fleeing war, their families had dissipated because of the conflict. And so that's how I got connected first and foremost to the Karnali region. That was the first place I went in Nepal. It was the first place I fell in love with. And I took my first trip when I was 19 with my friend Sunita, who was from Calicut, which is where my co-founder's from. And there was just this beauty, this magic, this sense of community, this sense of resilience, but also extreme, extreme poverty that I had personally never seen or experienced, both on the India side as migrants, as, fleeing from conflict, and also on the Nepal side. So first, I kind of wanted to understand, why is everyone leaving Nepal? Why is everyone leaving this region? And then getting to the Nepal side, really going deeper, and watching kind of my friend go through that journey of finding home and finding the village that she'd come from. So immediately I was like in love with this region, wanting to learn about this region, about its people. My co-founder, who was from this region, decided, and I decided, after seeing kids breaking rocks on the riverbed, after seeing the lack of opportunity, after seeing all the issues that were on the India side, that the solution to some of this problem would be to get back into the region itself and try to make things a little better. And we started by realizing that education is everything. It is probably like the single most determining factor for ending cycles of poverty and violence. And in addition to that, I mean, you can't get to education unless you can also have all of these other basic human needs and rights fulfilled. So we were like, okay, let's start with education and scholarships and getting kids into school. And then at some point in the initial journey working with the community, we realized there was also all these other needs, and that communities and communities themselves really know how to make a difference, how to make an impact. But often they lack resources, or in the case of this region, they're just up against so many things when it comes to poverty and setbacks and opportunity. So kind of my role in the beginning was to bring in resources. There was no lack of hope, no lack of ideas, no lack of a community wanting to make things better for children. Actually, something that people often say about the Karnali region is that, oh, it's the backwards district. It's the backwards district. It's this, it's so bad. It's this, it's backwards and it's poor. And I often say, actually, if you travel to this region, if you love this region, you can go to every single family anywhere, Dolpa, Humla, Jumla, Kalikot, Dayak, Atam, sit down with every and any family, and you ask them, what is it that you want more than anything in the world? And 99.9% of the time, they'll say education, employment, better opportunities for my children. And that makes me get kind of upset with the development movement, because I feel like Karnali is very forward thinking, and that the people are hopeful and strong and resilient, and in a way have been victims simply by circumstance and underinvestment. And that's kind of what the far west and Western Nepal has been. It's been a victim of underinvestment and lack of jobs and lack of opportunity. It's a landlocked region, it's mountainous. That's where a lot of the conflict was during the Maoist uprisings. So yeah, that made me really excited to dig in. It was a very forward thinking, very hopeful people. And we knew right away that it takes communities to change communities. So that was our initial goal, is to create a full service community school, a home, a place where children could lead nourished, happy, joyful, nurtured lives, and create a community movement around children being able to thrive and grow, women being employed, more opportunity, more investment in education, and a model of community development. And that's what BlinkNow is. It started with a home. We have safe residential homes for children in desperate need, either temporary or semi-permanently. We've got a full service community clinic. We've got I think like 8 different social workers. We've got entrepreneurial trainings, vocational trainings. We've got women's empowerment center and programs. We've got sustainability initiatives for food and farming and job creation. And we're launching kids out into the world who will be the first generation in our region to become, engineers, computer scientists, entrepreneurs, teachers, nurses, doctors. So really just working on the very, case by case model of educating one child at a time. And our model works with the neediest, the orphan, the disadvantaged, the child suffering from the most vulnerabilities. And we take them all the way through and launch them out into the world. Ideally, they stay in Nepal and in our region itself, where we believe change happens. And that's kind of BlinkNow in a nutshell. We have an amazing team, almost completely Nepali run. I'm a bad face for the organization, because if you came to Surkhet, you'd see 150 Nepali people and an amazing community surrounding them, not a girl from New Jersey who looks like me. So yeah, the first lesson in kind of going to this region is that I didn't have a lot of answers. I couldn't take suburban New Jersey and export it to Karnali. It wouldn't work. But Tope, my co-founder, is amazing, and the people who we formed the organization with were amazing. And we started with like one little baby step at a time, a child breaking rocks, to like slow community based organic change, one step, one program, one sort of problem at a time.
Thank you for sharing, Maggie Doyne. I have tons of questions because I'm from that region, and my not question, I just kind of, I would say we could go on and on the thing you talked about. I was born there, and I have another house in Kailali. And my ancestors were from Assam. And can you please share maybe one of the most compelling challenges you had to face at the beginning while you were starting out?
Yeah, so I mean, in development work, you never want to be putting like band-aids on situations. You want to get to like stopping crisis from happening in the first place. But in a region like Karnali, there was so much crisis on hand, right? We had migrants, we had refugees, we had the nuclear family was disintegrating, recovering from civil war. Once you have an orphan child, 10,000 things have already gone wrong because a
Yeah.
child shouldn't lose both their parents. A child shouldn't suffer from hunger. A child shouldn't suffer, right? So, but we had to deal with so much crisis like on hand that was hard to like get deeper into the prevention of a crisis. So that took a lot of time. That was really difficult. There's just so much need where we are that sometimes it feels like you're drinking out of a fire hose, and it can be really overwhelming. The second challenge for me personally was learning how nuanced and complex some of the cultural issues and differences are and were, especially at that time. So, as like a very empowered, I'm one of three daughters. I don't think I understood like how like deeply, gender-based issues, gender-based violence are until I saw it and really came to learn about it. You know, dignified menstruation, that was something I really had to learn about, all of the different belief systems and sort of religious customs. It's very, very complicated. And so that was a really big personal challenge. As a young person, I thought, oh, that's easy. Enroll kids into school, it'll all get fixed. And then as you get into working in these communities, there was just so much to unlearn, to relearn, and so much that so many complexities, like really multifaceted, multi-layered complexities that make simple problems really, really difficult. I don't need to teach you about that. I think you obviously understand, but for listeners who aren't from this region, Karnali is really, really complex. It's a melting pot, and so many things that like I said in the beginning that we're up against, and it was hard. Like I just didn't understand why girls were sleeping in menstrual huts. It just felt like a black and white issue. This is wrong. It needs to stop right now. It needs to be made illegal. I mean, now I've gotten to live in Nepal at the time, during the time when child putty was made illegal,
Yeah.
and it's still there. This practice is
Yeah.
still alive, and just not, realizing how you can't just pass a law and child marriage ends. You can't just pass a law and child putty ends. These things are so deep
Yeah.
and not something that I can begin to solve by myself. And I had to learn right away that women and, you know, the people, like the communities, need to decide on these things for themselves. You can't go in as an outsider and be like, girls shouldn't be sleeping in menstrual huts. And as a 19-year-old, that was so hard for me because it made me so angry. So yeah, those were like the initial things, is just the learning, the unlearning, the realization that change takes time. It takes generations, it takes years, it takes decades, which is why I'm still there, living there, 18 years later. And so patience, I think, to work in development today, we need patience, understanding, and we need communities to step in and take control and have autonomy and decision making powers. And that was really hard in a country where at the time, it was a new republic, there weren't elections, there wasn't government in place. Impossibly hard. um so yeah, just like figuring out how that would look like and establishing a local board, and yeah, and creating that organization and building a robust kind of strategic plan. 10 years and then another 10 years to like figure this stuff out and work through it on so many different layers.
When I came to know about you, this is the reason I call it One Humanity Community, Maggie, because look, you are a girl, 18-year-old girl from New Jersey, going to Surkhet, Karnali Pradesh, and me, a village boy who didn't have any opportunities. I did my best. I had to walk about like a 2.5 hour to go to my uh, middle school. So it was in the forest. There were used to be tigers, all kind of bears, and all typical animal. And I just I was too young in comparison to many other friends who were like 4 or 5 years older than me, same grade. Can you please share some of the success stories of your student? I am sure you have many, but maybe a couple of them if you want to share. Because I always think, when I think about you, I think about only one thing. That is, if Maggie was not there in Turkey, what would happen to those kids? You came there as a. I feel deeply from my heart. Uh, Future of this student, what would happen? That the question always kind of, in a way, bothers me.
Mm.
Uh, but yeah, can you please share some of the success stories?
So, so many success stories. It's even hard to choose one. But since we started the podcast on Hema is now becoming a chef. She wants to open her own restaurant. Um, we 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 take in the child and the children who are struggling the most and basically like set out to prove that anyone can be anything, right? That's like the whole uh, with the right interventions, with the right opportunities, anyone can be anything. Like humans are amazing. And the next Einstein, the next brilliant scientist who's going to cure cancer is probably sitting in a Himalayan village, right? Or just, but maybe their school's 2.5 hours away. Maybe their family's struggling for food. Maybe they have to work. And so when you have, brilliant, amazing children with like every opportunity in the world and so much endless potential, like anything's possible. And so we've got 228 alumni now, and they're doing incredible things. And they're going to international colleges and universities. They're going to the best schools in Kathmandu. They're pursuing higher education. They're pursuing vocational and diploma courses. They're becoming nurses. And I touched on it a lot before, that they can do anything. Like there is no limit to what they have been able to achieve. They're my heroes. It's hard to know like what I really believe in them, and I believe in their strength and their power and their resilience. And we kind of just stepped in to fill and give them what they already deserved, but they just weren't getting. And yeah, so my goal is that every child is safe and educated and loved and has equal access to opportunity. And when we talk about education, quality really matters, like quality education. So yeah, our alum, are graduating at the top of the national exams. They're running successful businesses, and they're ending cycles of poverty in their generations and their families and for generations to come. And it's so much fun to see them launch and like thrive and grow and do so many incredible things. So yeah, and I think it's important to remember that like success is different for every child, right? Like for some of our kids, success means making it to 8th grade, averting a child marriage, having a healthy meal every single day. It's like very, very simple. Being able to play soccer. Like we started the first girls soccer team. And then for others, success is like, they're doing groundbreaking research in labs in Kathmandu and like, opening their own businesses and restaurants. So it's fun to see that whole like that anything's possible with education. That. I think you're a great example of that. Like anything is possible. And we just have to like believe in that for everybody and every person. everywhere. And then,
Wonderful.
and then it's going to be, and then we're going to fix it all. It's going to be fine.
Yeah. When I work with the younger generation, Maggie Doyne, I always share my story with a student here, from where I came and what struggle I had.
Mm,
And also, some of the issues are global issues. For example, climate change. As you know, I don't want to blame any country or but whatever we are doing here in the United States as one humanity, let's say, good or bad, it has impact in the hilly region of Nepal. As you know, like how Himalayas are melting,
yeah.
and also
100.
other issues, as you know, unemployment, poverty, and all the things.
Yeah, it's like the people who are contributing the least amount to
Yes.
like carbon and the environment are the people who are victimized the most. And that's where the human cost is. And that's where we see these landslides and villages being swept away and water shortages and power shortages and food growing seasons being thrown off because of these issues and hunger. And it's, again, like back to the beginning, it's truly like unfair because there's a life, like it costs us here in the West very little, but to someone in rural Himalayan Nepal, it's their life and their livelihood and their survival.
Yeah.
And they have nothing to, like, there aren't even cars or roads or hospitals or power in these places. So it's something that we really need to think about.
Yeah. And one thing is, I'm kind of, in a way, I'm the real victim of climate change, Maggie, because you might have heard the story in 2014. There was a big, how the very river swelled up and how that impacted the place I was born is called Jammu. That's in the very close from Babia shore. And many of my villagers, they died.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we worked in Jammu after the flood. When that flood hit, we were there. We had like thousands of people who swept away and who's
yeah,
lost their land, their homes, their livestock,
yeah.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember being there for that.
Wow. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much. I also provided some support